When life throws you a curveball, how are you going to handle adversity? Welcome to the Fearless Mindset Podcast, where you're about to go on a journey as I interview security, business, and entertainment leaders on what it takes to stay fearless. I'm your host, Mark Ledlow, and enjoy today's episode. What was the CI role like? And I know, shout out to Chris Coleman. He's been on the show, Mike Trott. He was the first guest on the episode to help me launch this thing. So thanks, Mike, for that help, and congratulations on the 4 Branches Bourbon Whiskey.
That's right. Yeah, it's I see his stuff on a regular basis now.
Who would have guessed Mike would become like an entrepreneur and creating whiskey and doing what he's doing, and then getting stars, celebrities.
Think about both Mike and Chris, and the journeys that they have had professionally post their government careers. It's sales. It is now. Again, it's with the sturdy hat on, but because I think of security as being a sales role, Chris has built his security company, and whether it's selling into a family office or selling into it. I got to know Chris through a consultancy that he was sort of was attached to, and I went to work for the consultancy, and then ended up in Abu Dhabi together. Also, where I met Mike. Right. And so each of them have had this, how are we going to sell our capability and our service to whoever the client happens to be? So Mike just took off the security hat, said, I want to sell tasty bourbon. Okay.
Good on him.
It's a skill set that both he and Chris and others have developed over the long career.
He just reinvented himself. I had no idea he'd be whoa, we got investors, running a business, and got a distillery somewhere in the South somewhere. Yeah. And I'm like, whoa. And he's going all in.
Yep.
And I'm like, dang.
That turned from a side hustle to an all in pretty quickly, didn't it?
I'm impressed. I still need to get a bottle. Get a signed bottle. I might have to pay a little extra for that, but I know during Christmas, I ordered quite a few of them to send to clients.
Right.
They go, is this bottle for me? And they go, yeah. Holy crap. I just did it for about, half a dozen people for Christmas. And they're shocked. Help Mike out on the business.
To give 4 Branches, a massive shout out. The branding of that product is amazing.
Yeah.
And so for people who want to support sort of the mission oriented, sacrificial, we're going to go and fight for life, liberty, pursuit of happiness. And here's a tasty bourbon that represents that. Yes, maybe we're missing out on the Coast Guard and Space Force, but they between veterans, we can make fun of that, but it's a really good branding, and it's a really good bourbon. So I think that was something they've done really, really well.
Yeah, I would agree. Everybody that got the bottle, and this stuff was good. I'm like, the doctor put me on a diet after I had COVID, so I'm like, oh, okay. I won't be touching caffeine, alcohol, red meat for a while. Good things under control.
Yeah.
But you know what blows me away is how good the CIA is good at training agents like you, Chris, and Mike on developing relationships.
Yeah.
And that network, there seems to be, it's almost like the Marine Corps Brotherhood, but once you get in there, there's like a family unit that's really tight of trust. That's what I've noticed.
Yeah. Well, And on occasion, I think that former CIA types do not do as good a job at leveraging our network as some of the other 3-letter agencies. So the FBI, Treasury, Secret Service, I think they do a really good job at leveraging their networks to get into that next position. And I don't see that as much with the agency.
Interesting.
And I've got sort of ideas and theories about it. But there is we do trust each other. And so when there is ever that, hey, I need something, there's a built-in trust. And part of it is because that's the agency trusts trust the individual. Like, my job, I was a case officer. I'd go out and meet a single person. It was me and that person. So what I wrote, what I said, I didn't record anything. So the agency and the federal government, they had to trust that what I was saying was actually what I was able to elicit from that person. So there is, I think that this is one of the things that the agency has done, and whether they train it or whether they find people who have that innate capability. There's a trust but verify piece, but trust is super important in that space.
Yeah, I tell people from my military background, I tell them the most powerful entity in the United States, I feel personally, it's not the president of the United States, it's the CIA. That's my opinion, but whether it's right or wrong, but the CIA is doing the dirty work behind the scenes and keeping Americans safe and healthy and alive in foreign places. And yeah, we do some stuff overseas, but hey, it's American interest that we got to protect and preserve. And I think due to misinformation, I think the CIA has gotten a bad rap, maybe because of movies and stuff, on what these agents, and you guys are constantly putting your lives on the line for the preservation of our freedoms.
Yeah, I really, really enjoyed my time there. I also say that it was entirely too short. And if I had anything to do over again, I would not have left.
Wow.
But I did, and I had various reasons for wanting to go out and do something else. And so I've now spent far more time in the private sector than I did working for Uncle Sam, whether that was wearing a uniform or with the agency. But in that organization especially, there is no other place that you can do what you do in that role, right? If I got in, I got out, and I made myself like the promise that I'm not writing a book about it. I'm not writing a book about my experience. I went in sort of in my mind with the honorable intention to go and, life, liberty, pursuit of happiness.
Yeah.
Primarily for the American people, but if I could figure out a way to sort of push that into some other locations, like, to me, those values are amazing. And the job of the CIA is to protect that. And so like the mission at the agency, amazing. And so thankful that I had the opportunity to do it. Like I said, if I had it to do over again, I wouldn't have left. Wow. I mean, when I did, everybody leaves whatever the company happens to be, whether it's a 3-letter organization, whether it's, my last company, everybody leaves.
Yeah, everything you do is pretty much classified when you're a CIA.
That's right. Yeah.
So, can you tell any stories without touching that was a life-changing experience that propelled you in your career?
Well, and so, because of where I worked, and because I was there as Ben Whitfield, in December of 2004. The American Consulate in Jetta was attacked by terrorists.
Oh, okay. I remember that.
And so, I was in the building, right? Various pieces. It still feels very much like yesterday, but in the building and heard the gunfire as terrorists came in and had breached the gate. It's kind of we had concrete barriers, and we had arm bars, and we had, sort of the traditional, you open up one gate, keep the other one closed kind of thing. We had Delta barriers, and they had done all the necessary surveillance to know exactly how the operation worked. And they breached the perimeter. Whoa. And so sitting in the building, I still remember the duck and cover alarm goes off. And then I heard the weapons fire. I'm like, this isn't a drill. And so they ended up, we had 9 people killed, including some of the terrorists that day. No Americans, but a lot of our Foreign Service national staff that happened to be walking around the grounds were gunned down in cold blood. And sort of, my transition into the physical security space really did begin there. Because I was a CIA case officer. My job was to go out and find out kind of, what the locals were doing. And so I went out and found out what the locals were doing. But it was really interesting to say, okay, so what are we doing about the security gaps that we have that we have in our facility? And part of why I left the U.S. government was the overall response and the bureaucratic response to that incident. It was sort of, it wasn't what I would have hoped or what I would have thought would have been the response to protect the facility. Like very, very rapidly thereafter, I was out again in my soft vehicle because that was my job. And everybody else was supposed to be, everybody else was in armored cars, and we had, 4 drivers who would take us to and from the compounds. And then the drivers would see me, they'd taken me from the consulate back home, and then they'd see me pulling out in my personal vehicle. They'd ask me the next day, why is it that you get to drive? I'm like, well, you guys have to. And at the time, women couldn't drive in Saudi Arabia because the ladies at the consulate, they need to be able to get to the grocery store too, and you're shuttling people back and forth. And I sort of that executive mentality. Yep. I know this place. I know the places I can go. I already I know the grocery store that I'm fine. I have this covered. That was my cover story. I've got this covered, but I had to be out, and I wasn't going to do it in an armored vehicle to go to the places that I needed to go to. So it wasn't so much I didn't like the response on how they protected me as a person, because I didn't at the time, that wasn't the job. I didn't need the protection. It was the overarching bureaucratic response to that event. But that one was one of those, and it's December 6th. There was a guy in the consulate who wrote an article called "The Day Before Pearl Harbor Day." I always remember what day it is, but December 6th, 2004. So every December 6th after, I look at it as those are bonus years for me. Because I should have died that day. If it had been 30 minutes later, we all would have been at lunch outside of the main building that actually did have good security, good solid physical security at the perimeter of the building. But if we had been in the lunch hall, we would have all been lined up, orange jumpsuits, zip ties, one by one, sort of videoed and gunned down. So I look at it as bonus year time, having been there. A lot of people do a lot of other things, but that was the one that to me really sticks out, and sort of because of the way that the U.S. government, State Department, other agencies responded to that. I think I want to go out and find a way to do better. And I could have stayed in the U.S. government and maybe tried to find a way to do better within that bureaucracy. But I really have found this home in the private sector for 20 plus years now, where it's I can protect our people, our facilities, our operations in that appropriate way. And if and when something happens, there's a good solid response. There's not the sort of. I still remember the apology that someone issued to us, which was, "I'm sorry that you feel that way." Yeah, that's
you
not
an apology. People died.
That's not an apology.
You experienced warfare.
Yeah. So it was, "I'm sorry that you feel," and it was the entire American Consulate, that all the staff were sitting there saying, "We don't think that you have done enough for us. We don't think that you did enough to secure the building before and secure the building after." And the only apology that we got for that was, "I'm sorry that you feel that way."
Wow. The administration. Don't want to know who the administration was, but that probably answers the question.
Yeah. Well, it was, then that's government at the time. There's changes in government and, sort of leaving the politics out of it. U.S. government has needed some introspection, in my view, for a long time.
Absolutely. Wow. Yeah, when I started my career in Southern California, I spent 90% of my time protecting royals from the Middle East, mainly Saudi Arabia, without going into too much detail. It was like first couple weeks, like boot camp. They treat you like you're adopted stepchild, and they're just testing you to see what you're made of.
Yeah.
That's their culture. I'm like, I'm a freaking United States Marine, and I'm an American, and they're on my soil. Why are they treating me like crap for? This doesn't make any sense. And then once they realize that they can't do anything to push you out, then they come eat, yalla, 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 and they're friendly. But yeah, that's free first 3 weeks, 2 weeks usually, and just play games with you, all these head games. And then the nannies are playing games with you, and they're just rude.
Well, so my time in Saudi, I also sat on the visa line, and so I did not give a lot of visas in my time while I was there. It was just right after 9/11, and 11 of the 14 hijackers had been issued visas in the Jetta consulate. So our culture at the time was we were going to be a little bit stricter in our interpretation of immigration law. And so I was flying to Switzerland for a personal vacation to go skiing, and I was sitting in the airport in Jeddah, and this guy just kept eyeballing me. I'm like, I'm in the airport, but I'm going to pay attention. Like I'm going to, and so I kept looking, and there were so in Saudi, a lot of the flights don't leave until late at night. So the airport is clearing out. I think we were the last flight out for that night. And everybody else is clearing out. And I'm the last one to get on the shuttle bus to go out to the gate with a handful of other people, including this guy. And he comes up to me while we're on the bus, and he's like, "I know you." I was like, "So did I or did I not give you a visa?" Because he was like he was not wearing the Saudi thobe, the white, the traditional white dress. So I didn't recognize him. I just thought he was somebody that I had interviewed and probably said no to. He's like, I can't have a visa. And I'm like, well, why can't you have a visa? And he's like, I'm so-and-so bin Laden. And I'm like, oh, yeah. I remember his name, and I'll save that. But I'm like, oh, yeah, Shay, it's good to see you again. I'm sorry I didn't recognize you. Of course I remember you. Of course, like you invited me over to your family. Really, really nice family. And so on this, like this is no more than a 5 or 10 minute conversation on the shuttle bus. I'm going to Switzerland. I'm going skiing. He's like, I'm taking my kids skiing. You should come to Stad with us. You should teach my kids to ski. And for just that moment, I'm like, man, I could teach Osama bin Laden's niece and nephew how to ski. Or I could just squeeze the value out of this 5 to 10 minute story and not be treated as I expected I would have been treated in Stad as the ski instructor for the week. So I'm like, thank you very much. I'm going to go to Zermatt instead. That's where I'm going. It's going to be a good trip, but your kids are going to be great. And I subsequently saw them in and around Jeddah. But it is they're an interesting people, the Saudis. The Bin Laden family. That was a cool interaction with them.
In the Bin Laden family, they're one of the biggest, wealthiest families in the families in Saudi Arabia. Yeah,
and big into the construction industry, and so they had a black sheep. Now I at the time we had not yet found UBL, so I was trying every angle I could find to get into that and say, maybe I would like to be responsible for being the one who found him. So that's, I had some solid relationships with the Bin Laden Corporation in trying to see if, is he actually a black sheep, or does somebody have ties that might be able to say, here's where he is. Never did find that person, but lots of, I gave more than a few visas to Bin Laden's when I was in Saudi.
That's crazy. You don't hear too much about them anymore. They kind of dissipated.
Yeah. They're doing their thing. They're running their businesses.
Wow. And it seemed to be the Crown Prince seems to be more of a businessman than a second, almost he'll be king there once the other guy dies, right?
Yep. Yep.
And
He should be next.
wow.
Yeah.
So they
But
seem to be more
more
entrepreneur.
pragmatic. Yeah.
Okay. And it sounds like he's more pro women than the others before him. Give him
I
more
think
freedoms.
I think generationally that shift was coming. It's very difficult to continue to tamp down and control. Like, I'm amazed at how the Chinese do it, how the North Koreans do it. Like the outside world doesn't exist because they do such a good job of managing their firewalls.
Mm-hmm.
The Saudis spend so much time, and this is true of a lot of the Gulf Arabs, they spend so much time outside of the Gulf that those cultural norms were going to continually be eroded away with the more time that people spend outside of the kingdom. And so, I think that because he's pragmatic, he realizes, and we've got like, I don't know what percentage of their business population was educated in the West.
Usually.
Yeah. But whatever it is, it's big. And so he's pragmatic, and he realizes we'll figure out a way to maintain the custodian of the two mosques and be pragmatic. In the same way that the Emiratis have done an amazing job with that.
Yeah, absolutely.
Maintaining that we are still Bedouin, we're still followers of Islam, and we can be part of the global population.
Yes, I definitely see Saudi aligning with America in business.
Yeah,
I know the Trump organization. They have a lot of business dealings in Saudi Arabia, from what I understand, and it seemed like I remember the sword dance. That was 2 terms ago. The sword dance. Like, what's the sword dance? But I think there's a respect in business, possibly. And I think the Saudi Arabians respect business people. And that's kind of what I learned when I protected them. I protected some of the highest ranking family members of Saudi Arabia when they were in Beverly Hills, and worked on a couple projects with Chris Coleman and Mike Trott on some Middle Eastern folks. And yeah, like you said, most of them come to the U.S. for education. They get educated here and they speak English, and then you find out who they were connected to. Like, oh, wow, I'm protecting this person. Oh, okay.
And they, because of the time that they spent here, and they, a lot of Saudi men ended up marrying American women, and they go back. When I was running around over there, my Arabic is much rustier now, but I spoke Arabic, and people could never quite pinpoint, because they're like, "You're not Saudi. You don't speak with the Jadawi accent, but we don't know where you could be. Your dad could be Saudi. Your mom might be from somewhere else."
Right.
Like, and a lot of this, so I spent a lot of time when I was there with sort of the let's call it the first generation, was the grandfathers who had made the move from we're a desert country into an oil-rich country, and we're going to build some businesses. And then their sons, that's the generation that was running the businesses. And then the grandsons were I was halfway in between the sons and the grandsons. But the grandsons were the ones who almost expected to be educated in the West.
Wow.
And most of them spoke flawless English because they had grown up either in the West, back and forth with the West, because their fathers had gone and been educated in, at Berkeley, Stanford, UCLA, wherever. And so a lot of those kids, I blended in with those kids.
Wow.
Because they're like, you could be an older one of them. Because I was right in between.
Yeah, I know that I've heard too, a lot of details supporting the families coming in, like at Beverly Hills, LA area. The word has it, a lot of them won't support a Saudi now because of the fact that the tip in the old days used to be good, but I think the new generation, new money's coming in. They just see the value in having bodyguards or exec protection agents. And back in the day when I was working, the tips were crazy. I mean, I remember working a summer and making, $5K, $6K in an envelope. That was a bonus. That was a tip. They don't even do that anymore.
Interesting.
And so I've seen a trend, maybe it's because of the Crown Prince, implementing, 1099s, and they have a paper trail.
Yeah.
So they're trying to be more, what's the word? Accountable where the money is flowing back and forth and what they're doing.
Yeah.
Maybe the Patriot Act is, they have to follow laws of Saudi Arabia, and they just can't send cash to everybody and buy cars for these agents that they fell in love with. And I mean, there's cars and Rolex watches back in the day, and now I'm hearing nobody gets even tips.
Wow.
So the whole, I think it might be a generational thing with the new money down there. And when they had the shakeup with the Crown Prince, locked everybody up in the hotels and wouldn't let them out until they made arrangements or whatever those arrangements were. And I remember Tucker Carlson interviewing Kingdom Holding. What's his name? I can't remember. He's a prince. But I remember hearing stories that the Crown Prince had him locked up in a hotel for like several months, and then they had him come to an agreement, whatever that agreement. He wouldn't disclose on the YouTube video on what that agreement was.
Right.
I'm sure he'd be dead if he did, but it's just how things work in Saudi Arabia. And but they made an agreement, and it's just how it's so different how they do business over there. It's just their custom, I guess.
Yeah. Well, it is heavily relationship based.
Mm-hmm.
Very much, the term wasta, so sort of how you leverage that.
Okay.
And culturally, it has probably shifted the how, but not the fact that it gets leveraged. Wasta will be people. I can't imagine in that part of the world. So what I've been out 20 years.
Mm-hmm.
Like I said, women couldn't drive.
Yeah.
When I was there. Like the idea of even a Western woman going around in Jetta, which was far more liberal than Riyadh as the capital. The idea of a Western woman going out without the black abaya, the covering. She didn't have to cover her hair, but like going out in just sort of normal Western attire, conservative Western attire, but like that, very, very few women did that. Most women wore the abaya. And now, as business women travel into the kingdom, and now it includes Jeddah, Riyadh rather. As long as it's sort of respectful business attire, the abaya doesn't always get thrown on. Now, from a security perspective, when I worked for Merck and was the regional security director for Europe, Middle East, Africa, and when we had business meetings in Riyadh, that was the travel security recommendation, was for women to actually have an abaya, put it on. It just lowered the profile dramatically. And in meetings, fine, if you didn't want to wear it, that was fine. But like if you're traveling around, if you're going from the hotel to the airport or from the hotel out to dinner, wherever you're going, just it was culturally sensitive, but it also lowered the security profile. You were not immediately seen as, okay, that's an American or a multinational business target that happens to be going from that hotel, which is a business hotel, to that restaurant, which is a business restaurant.
Right.
Just lower the profile.